Hi there, in this video we are going to build a data analysis agent, and the course objectives which I have for you today is, first of all, I will explain you on what is a data analysis agent. We will understand some concepts and terminologies as well as architecture and solution, and then we are going to build a data analysis agent in Python. And you will also understand what are the pros and cons of such a solution. So first of all, let us start by understanding on what is a data analysis agent. So it is an AI which converts a natural language question on data and it gives data insights. So to quickly show you on how it looks like, so you can ask a question on data which is in plain English. You can see here it's a plain English question, and then the agent is going to understand what the question is. It is going to execute a code on the data and it is going to give you some outputs, and these outputs are also expressed in a very easy way to understand, and you can also have visualizations which are produced. So this is a very nice way, very fast way and very modern way to do data analysis, because the user do not have to write any complex coding but just ask questions in plain English to the data. Now here is the overview of the solution architecture. So you have a front end, middleware, back end, and LLM, because we have to use a large language model which is going to help us understand the questions in natural language. It's for this reason you also have this LLM layer. And for this particular video we are going to focus mostly on the back end in Python and the LLM part, because these are the most important pieces of this data analysis agent. Now let us also understand few concepts and terminologies. So an important terminology is an assistant, which is basically the entity which gets the work done. And you have to define a profile of an assistant. So for example, here you are saying that you are a data analyst and write in Python code and create visualization. So this is done through a prompt. All the conversation with the assistant will take place through a thread. And in this thread you are giving some messages, and then you are also retrieving the messages which are created by the assistant. A message itself has got a thread ID, it has got the role. For example, if we have to send a message, the role will be user. You also have to give your question, which is the natural language question, and you assign it to content, and then you also have to pass some attachments. So attachments are basically data and tools, and because this is a data analysis agent, you have to upload the data, and this we can do it through this OpenAI file object. And you also have to define the tool, means how do you want your data analysis to be done. So for example, here we can say that we want our data analysis done through Python. In that case, the tool will be the code interpreter. Now let me also briefly explain you on what is this full mode. So here if you see, our data is actually uploaded on the OpenAI server, and OpenAI is going to run a Python code interpreter. It means we do not have to run any Python code locally to analyze the data. And this is good if you are comfortable to send the data to OpenAI. If you are not comfortable, for example, if your data is quite private, you should not use this functionality. And it is also useful if your task is quite complex, because the model is going to see the complete data, so it can analyze the results in a much better way. And when you want to generate charts and code without managing any local Python environment, so this is a good solution for that. Now let us go into the Python code. So first of all, you have to import some packages, and important packages here is this OpenAI as well as Pandas, which is the data analysis package for Python. And then because we are going to use OpenAI, you also need an OpenAI key. And what we need to do is, first of all, we need to create a client which is going to be our object which will help us interact with OpenAI. Next step is to create this assistant. So here we have to pass a prompt which will define what kind of assistant we would like to have. So for example, here we are saying that you are an assistant which is a data analysis expert. You are going to understand the data, you are also going to write a clean Python code, you are going to create visualization, as well as you are going to explain the insights in plain English, and you are going to suggest some 2 or 3 follow-up questions. So the first step is to check if we already have an assistant or not. And this you can do so using this function called as client beta assistant.list. If it exists, in that case this existing will be true. In that case we can just reuse it by calling this function client beta assistant update. But if it doesn't exist, we can create it using this function called as client beta assistant create. And you can give any name of the agent. For example, here I'm using data Jarvis, but you can use any name of your choice. And then you also need to pass what is the tool which this assistant will use. And in our case, it is going to be code interpreter because we want to analyze the data in Python. And then you can also indicate the model, which is the large language model which we want to use. And in this case, we are using this GPT-4o model, which is very powerful large language model. Now the next step is to upload the data to OpenAI. And the data what I have is data which is related to vehicles, related to cars. So this data has got the brand name of the car, it has got some technical characteristic of the car, as well as it has also got the price of the car. So you can upload this data by creating a function called as client file create. So it is going to upload this data and it is going to return you a file ID, which is a location in which the OpenAI is going to store this data. So for example, in our case, we have the file ID, we have the file name, and we also specify the purpose is for the assistant to use this data. Next step is to create this conversation thread. So if you remember, as I explained you earlier, a thread is basically all the conversations which is going to take place with the assistant. So here we can create a thread by calling this function client beta thread create. And next step is to now start sending messages. And for example, here we have the first question, like what are the top 5 car brands by average price, and create a bar chart. And we also need to send this attachment, which is the location of the file where we want our assistant to look and do all the data analysis, as well as the type of the tool, which is the code interpreter. And you can create a message using this function client beta thread message create, and you pass the thread ID, you pass the role as user, you pass the user question, and you also pass the attachment. So for example, here we have the message which is created, as well as the question what we want to pass it to the assistant. Now the next step is to start the run. So run is basically which is going to trigger the assistant to process the thread and the messages into it. So we create this run using this function called as client beta threads run create, and the run will start. And it will not be an immediate answer, but we will have to wait because the assistant will take some time to read some data and create the program, execute and return back to us. So let's say we want to wait maximum for 120 seconds. So we can loop, or also called as we can poll the assistant if the run is complete or not, and we can try to see what is the status of the run by using this function called as client beta threads run retry. If the status is complete, it means the assistant has completed his task, then we just exit this polling or exit this loop. If the status is failed, cancelled or expired, it means there was some issue and the assistant could not execute the code correctly. In that case also we exit. But if the status is none of this, in that case the assistant is still working and we can wait for about 2 seconds. We can go to the second loop or second poll and just retry this loop till 120 seconds. So for example, here we have all the different statuses, like it started with queue, then in progress, and then after 16 seconds the assistant completed and gave back the response. Now the next step is to retrieve all the results which have been given by the assistant, and this is stored in run steps. So here we can get all the run steps through this function, client beta threads run step list. And then we can loop through this run step list, and an important step type is a tool call, which will have all the information what we need. So, and we need to check if the type is code interpreter, in that case the output will be the code, and if the type is logs, it means we can retrieve all the logs which were created. As if the type is images, in this case the run type will have all our visualizations which were created. So for example, here I'm retrieving the code over here. This is, I'm retrieving also the plot which is created over here. So this is a nice way to get all the outputs, including code as well as visualization. And we can also get the final assistant message, which is this insights, which is also very important. And this you can do so using this function called as client beta threads message list. And you can retrieve the message content which is of type text, and you will see that you will get an output like this. You will have all the insights. For example, for our questions, what are the top 5 car brands by average price, you will have the list of top 5 cars. And if you remember, in the prompt we also said to ask some follow-up questions, so we'll also have some follow-up questions. So this complete output is called as a message, and it is available for you to take it and display to the user. Now you can also continue the conversation. You can ask follow-up questions, and you do the same thing. You create the message, you make the run, you poll the run until it is complete, and then you execute the run steps. You get all the outputs. Outputs are your code as well as visualization as well as the final insights. Now at the end, you can also do some cleanup by deleting the file ID on the OpenAI servers. So to summarize, what we have done is we have first created an OpenAI client, which is our interface with OpenAI. We uploaded the CSV file to OpenAI. Then we created a conversation thread. We then added a user message. We started the run, and we waited for the run to complete. And then we retrieved all the run steps, which included the code, the output as well as images. We also retrieved the final assistant text message. And then we can continue asking more questions, and at the end, once we are done, we can delete the files on the OpenAI side. So this solution has got many advantages. First of all, the model is seeing the real data, so it can do a very accurate analysis. It is fully autonomous. It means that you do not have to take care of any Python installations on local side. It is doing it by itself. You can also have the assistant output PPT or Excel. So currently we just show visualization, but you can also ask the assistant to output PPTs and Excel. Now the disadvantages of this solution is that the data is leaving your machine. The data is going to OpenAI. So if your data is highly confidential, highly private, you should not use this approach. There is also some cost to it, because using OpenAI services is not free. And then it could be also be slower, because you are sending the data to OpenAI, and OpenAI is analyzing it, and it is going to return back the results. And this solution will also depend when OpenAI is available. But overall, it's a very good solution, and I would recommend that you should try it out. Now, if you want to see the complete app behind this, you can also go to my website called as datajarvis.ai, and here you can go to this app which is called as Data Analysis Agent, where you'll be able to execute the complete end-to-end app using the front end as well as middleware as well as back end, and see the results for yourself. So let me know in the comment on how do you like this tutorial, and do you want some precisions, and I can make some additional videos on that. So thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to the channel. Please do follow, and happy learning. Keep learning, and see you soon in the next video. Thank you. Bye.